Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are. With Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is... yes.
This is nonsense. Oh, gooberfish.
Why were you banished, Jar Jar?
It's a long Othello, but a small part of it would be Miss, Clumsy. Arby? Arby! These are so smiling to see in your side.
Good to see you again, Jar Jar.
Senator Padme. These Apollos here.
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. I am your host, Dan Zehr, delighted to talk Star Wars with each and every one of you. Ever since May of 2013, the thesis of this show is to help provide a positive, family-friendly, spoiler-free place to discuss this galaxy far, far away. Imagine walking into your favorite coffee shop and hearing a discussion of Star Wars films, Disney Plus live action, animation, books, comics, collectibles, or Star Wars experiences at the Disney theme parks. I want to share that experience here on this podcast. Weekly interactive live video, my website, special events, email newsletter, and more. Find out more and join our Star Wars community at coffeewithkenobi.com. Thank you to the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Check out coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel for a no-cost, no obligation quote, and let them know Coffee with Kenobi and Dan Zehr sent you. You are invited to join me and Star Wars fans around the world as Coffee with Kenobi and Mouse Fan Travel sail aboard the Disney Wish, June 16th to the 20th, 2025. Go to coffeewithkenobi.com/DisneyWish to get your no-cost, no obligation quote and join us as we enjoy the Star Wars Hyperspace Lounge and so many more amazing things with our wonderful Star Wars community. On today's show, it's a special show because today is May the 4th. Happy Star Wars Day, everyone. May the 4th be with you. I am joined by the one and only Ahmed Best as we talk about his legacy in the world of Star Wars as Jar Jar Binks, Kelleran Beq, and so many other things. Not only do we get to speak with Ahmed, but also Rob Poquez, the owner of the opening today Bricks and Minifigs store in Pasadena, California. It's an amazing store you're going to want to learn more about. Plus, you can meet Ahmed Best there as well. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi on May the 4th. You can't have May the 4th without a special Star Wars podcast. And is there anyone better to talk to on May the 4th than Ahmed Best? Ahmed, I'm so happy to have you back on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. It's been a minute.
It has. You were on show 353. It was during the pandemic, and Kelleran Beq was just a twinkle in our eyes. And now, my gosh, Kelleran Beq is quite a phenomenon. That must be really sensational for you.
Yeah, it's really wonderful to see this character that I kind of came up with just out of my pure love of Star Wars and put all my heart and soul into for Jedi Temple Challenge, and then have him, spoiler alert, save baby Grogu. It was really quite special. Very, really special.
Well, I know you've talked about this a lot. It's been fun to see it, but you get to do a lot of different things with the roles you've been a part of, but interacting with Grogu, because it's pretty well known that that's a puppet, but it must be really neat to see it kind of in real life. And it in a way, I would guess, I know Mark Hamill's talked about this, you have to act even more because it's a puppet.
Well, it's not very different from, we did Yoda, Frank Oz was Yoda in Phantom Menace. So working with puppets wasn't something that was foreign. Jar Jar was kind of a puppet actually on set. Mm-hmm. And even though it wasn't, just my hands, it was my whole body. I kind of looked at it as the same way that, someone from Henson would look at the Muppets, right? So that was really what I was working with. And the puppeteering and the animatronics are just so good on Mandalorian that you kind of forget that, that it is a puppet. And it's so cute. Like, I was on speeder and, flying through the air, and, you look down at this little cute baby and it just looks up at you with all of this, expression and enthusiasm, and it puts you right in it. So you don't have to do very much. The puppeteers and the animatronic folks are just so good that, this character has such personality that you just let it happen.
It's great. And I will never forget when you first walked onto the scene. And I mean, I think collectively fans just, their jaws dropped. I mean, there's so much love for you anyway, and it's just pretty cool. Plus, selfishly, and we talk about this, the Jedi Temple Challenge was so fun for me and my son, especially during the pandemic. And then just to kind of see that extra level of Kelleran Beq, who's now in books and comics and so many great things. It's just another tribute to how you continue to give back to Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm really quite honored that Kelleran Beq resonates so strongly with the Star Wars fan base. I loved doing Mandalorian. I love the fact that this character gets to live now. And, my whole thing with Jedi Temple Challenge as well as with Mandalorian is, all the Jedis that we know, that we know intimately, they were all reluctant teachers. Obi-Wan didn't really want to teach Anakin. Qui-Gon died and he promised to teach him. And, as Qui-Gon's dying in Obi-Wan's arms, he's like, teach the boy. And Yoda's like, don't do it, And then when Ben Kenobi is older and he's just like, well, maybe I should teach Luke as well, because of this thing with his father. And so all the Jedis that we know are all kind of reluctant to pass on that information because the Jedi Order had been dispersed. I wanted Kelleran Beq to be psyched to be a teacher. Like that was the motivation behind him. He's like, I could be the baddest Jedi in the galaxy, but I choose to be here. And I choose to teach these young people because they are the future of the Jedi. And they are actually the most important part of what keeps this whole thing alive is young people. And that's something that I learned from George. George is always about the kids. He was always like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, those kids are going to be adults and then they're going to bring their kids back. So I brought kind of that energy that George has towards, the younger folks and the younger fans and made Kelleran Beq like all of that. Really wants him to be just like, I love it here. I love the Jedi Temple. I love seeing these young Jedis achieve. And whatever Kelleran can do to make more young Jedis, that's what he's going to do.
And that's great. And my day job, I'm a high school teacher. And I remember when we spoke before that you do some educating yourself, not only as a parent, but at USC School of Dramatic Arts. And I have been talking about this since we spoke years ago. Your knowledge of cinema and performance was something that I've actually been using some things you said in the interview. I've played clips of it in my classes, in my mythology classes, because I would love to sit in your classes and just kind of absorb your knowledge. And how cool that you get to do that as an actor and a performer, and then as an educator in your own right.
Yeah, teaching wasn't anything that I planned on doing this soon. I always saw myself further down the line, teaching a class. And I always heard that Mike Nichols, the director Mike Nichols, he always had a class going, regardless of whatever he was doing as a director, but he always managed to have an acting class. And I always loved that, like here's Mike Nichols, one of the best directors, that we've seen ever. And he still finds time to be an educator. And I've been passionate about education pretty much all my life. So, teaching at SC has really changed me, because you get invested as an educator. You get invested in the people that you teach. And when that spark happens, when a student gets it, there's just like no better feeling. It just makes you feel so great when it all clicks. And So I've expanded. I also teach at Stanford University at the School of Engineering. I teach at the Hassel-Plattner Design School at Stanford. And so I get to do this with people who don't want to go into movies or TV. I get to do this with like engineers and designers and, synthetic biologists. And the same feeling happens when you teach them, like when they understand what's going on, they finally get it. It's a lovely feeling, and it's infectious. It's probably why I'm still in education, even with all the politics and university education. At the end of the day, it is about the young people. It is about the students.
It's so cheesy to say, but you're a Jedi in real life too, because that is about education, which is so marvelous. And we actually have another guest who's on the show too. And he's just been sitting here smiling, nodding his head, because this is a great guy. Rob, how do you pronounce your last name?
Poquez.
That's right. Okay. So Rob Poquez is here, and Rob and Ahmed are great friends. And there's something really, really special that they are doing on May the 4th. And Rob, please let us know about what is going on, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to share the airwaves with Ahmed. He is such a wonderful story, and it's just everything that's happened to him is kind of, it's the just way. It's the story that should have happened. It's the instance where the sequel is better than the prequel. So being able to kind of share this moment, share our store opening with him is such a dream. This was kind of a passion project for my wife and myself. It was her initial idea, and like opening up a Lego store is kind of like a crazy thing for a bunch of people who were in corporate America before this and kind of working normal 9-to-5 jobs. But like being able to open a space for creativity and a place where families can be is such a warm feeling that we kind of have been embracing ever since we decided to fully go forward with it. So our store opening is on May the 4th, and it's just such an honor to have Ahmed be a part of it, to be a part of both our opening and our celebration of Star Wars, and sharing the love that this community has for both Lego and Star Wars, and how much these two story threads have kind of intertwined, not even knowing so, like when we started this conversation, this journey together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the store that Rob's talking about is Bricks and Minifigs. It's in Pasadena. It's on 350 South Lake Street, Suite 110. Again, right in Pasadena. And it's going to be spectacular. Just now while we're talking, you and I talked before the show started, you've got all these Legos behind you. You're obviously a Lego fan. And you're a Star Wars fan. How do you and Ahmed know one another, and how did this collaboration begin?
It's like family. I worked at Lucasfilm as a PA during the Phantom Menace. So I was kind of working on the tail end of episode 1 into episode 2. And my cousin is the longtime producer, assistant to the producer for Rick McCallum. So, Ahmed was someone who was always around for the prequels. I don't know if I even told you it's Ahmed. I'm pretty sure we talked on the phone at least once, way back in the day, probably, since I ran calls. And, as we kind of, as my wife and I kind of got the idea of opening the store on May the 4th, we were just like, wouldn't it be great to like be able to include somebody from the Star Wars fandom in our store, considering we were so close to Los Angeles. And it just kind of worked out that I reached out to my cousin, and, I was like, it'd be really cool. Like, someone like Ahmed Best might be perfect for the story. And he was just on The Mandalorian, and it's such a great story. And she was like, oh yeah, I still talk to him. Would you like me to set up a call? And from there, it just happened, and it's been great ever since.
Yeah, Rob hit me at the exact right time, because I started working with this company called Pop-Up Con, which is like conventions in mom and pop stores, and oftentimes at these big conventions, you don't really get a chance to be personable with folk, because it's a factory and there are just so many people out there. And also there are all of these like small mom and pop stores that really love these things, that either will go to convention and get things signed and bring them back, or they would share this love with their community and try to find more people to find out about it and to know about it. So Pop-Up Con came about because I wanted to do a lot more personable convention situations, but I also wanted to bring attention to these really wonderful small businesses, these mom and pop stores that are really deep inside these like specialty cultures. And so when our D's called me, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I've been looking to do with Pop-Up Con. Like I really wanted to find these like beautiful like subculture mom and pop stores. And I've been involved with Lego for a long time. Like Lego Star Wars, I've been in a couple of the movies, and I've done a lot of the voices for Lego products, and Jar Jar's been a Lego for a while. And so it was just perfect. It was just like serendipitous that RDs called me and Rob and I connected.
Yeah, I didn't even know about the Kelleran Beq set when we started our conversation. And I didn't know about the new Jar Jar Binks being part of the Phantom Menace Brickheads. Like all of this stuff kind of happened. I'm like, oh my God, this is just so perfect all around for everybody.
Yeah.
It's completely meant to be. And there's another layer to this too, like sort of the pedagogical side of me is like, so Lego is really about, there's a teaching aspect to Lego, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there? I actually have a friend of mine, and years ago, he had a stroke, a pretty serious stroke. And on a whim, his wife came home and brought him a Lego set, and he started putting it together. And that led to another and another. And then over time, his brain started to rewire itself because he was building these Legos. And it's an incredible thing, but it's also not a surprise, really, is it either? And Ahmed, you're a dad. I'm sure you and the kids played Legos and built Legos, and there's just something about that, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's a lot of it is the sets that you get and try to build the sets. The thing that I love about Bricks and Minifigs in Pasadena is you can get these pieces that aren't necessarily a part of a set and use them as sculpture material to make whatever you want to make. And that's a level of Legos, like the master builder level of Legos, that makes that store special, right? That makes it different from just buying a Lego set off of Amazon. It's also a community building place, right? Which is really that's the educator part of me that comes out as well. It's like, here is a place where we can all come together and do this thing and talk about this thing and get together. And if there's anything that needs to be promoted in education right now, it's this idea of community and dialogue and building together. Like that's what we need to be doing to create that future that we all want to live in. And places like Bricks and Minifig in Pasadena, it brings all of these people from these different backgrounds, from the diaspora of Lego lovers, into a room to be able to craft and create and have these conversations. And it's just everything that I'm about. So I just love that about Bricks and Minifigs. It's this whole idea of community.
It's pretty epic, isn't it? And not only is it that community, but because of the store and because it's May the 4th, there's some special things to bring in more people to add to our wonderful community. So let us know, Rob, about the cool things that are happening for the first 100 customers.
Oh yeah, for the first 100 customers, we've designed an exclusive and special minifigure that has our kind of rose logo. So Pasadena is known for the Rose Parade and roses. So we designed a special, unique rose brick and kind of branded that as our logo. And then, of course, being May the 4th, there is a Star Wars version, a sci-fi version of that particular rose logo that will be out. So the first 100 customers get to choose. Do you want to have the light side torso or the dark side torso? So that'll just be a gift for everybody. And then throughout the day, we're going to have a bunch of giveaways. We're going to have a spin wheel where you can win a prize. There are going to be raffles. So everyone who comes into the door will get a raffle ticket, and everyone who makes a purchase will get additional raffle tickets that they can choose to enter for one of the drawings. A couple of them will be some autograph material from Ahmed if they can't make it to the signing window. They can still win a brick saber or a signed set from Ahmed that will be given by us. And then we also have one other special guest who's coming in too. If you watch the reality TV series Lego Masters, the most recent season co-winner, Christopher Lee, will be there as well for another part of the day. And then it's just after that will be featuring a lot of sets and stuff that we've kind of compiled over the last year as we were kind of dreaming the store and putting it together. We've put together an amazing collection. Even some of the hardcore Lego and Star Wars fans are seeing stuff that they've never seen before, that have kind of entered the doors of the store. So I think it's going to be a great place to celebrate Star Wars, Lego, and everything.
And knowing you can go there and get, like Ahmed said, specific pieces, like pieces that maybe you were missing, or that you thought, oh, you know what, I would like to try this. Or you're just going to get a bunch of inspiration, which is so cool. Honestly, this is a store that we have needed for a really long time. And Ahmed, you're obviously going to be there. Tell us about your participation and what people can expect when they get to see you there.
Yeah, I'm going to bring I'm there to actually just promote the store and let everybody know that it exists in this place. You can come and you can, use these Lego materials to sculpt. I'm going to be doing kind of like the convention thing. I'm going to be doing a lot of signings. And I'm going to have a whole table filled of Kelleran Beq pictures. I'll sign, Rob has these specialty like Lego pieces that I'll be able to sign if you get either a Jar Jar or Kelleran Beq Lego brick. And I'm just kind of there to meet people, like I said, I don't do a lot of conventions. Every once in a while I'll do a couple, but a lot of the reasons why I don't show up to a lot of conventions is because I have ADD, and sitting in one space for a long time, that kind of just makes me a little bit crazy. But I genuinely love and respect the entire fandom of Star Wars. And, the people that usually come up to me, especially the Jar Jar fans that come up to me, are usually people who are like socially anxious, or they have autism, or are special needs people. And I have such a large place in my heart for all of those people, especially because they identify with Jar Jar. So I'm really looking forward to meeting, everyone, but especially being able to have a little bit more time to spend with people who come up and want to meet me.
Amen. And that, I think that is worth it itself. If I was in the area, I would happily race down there. I mean, next time I'm in California, I've got to make sure to make that visit. And I mean, of course you bring up Jar Jar, and how could we not talk about Jar Jar? We're very close to the 25-year anniversary
25 years
of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and you have not aged a bit. So
I'm a little more gray than I was.
It's the lighting, man. It's the lighting. So what? I mean, Jar Jar is so beloved. I told you last time. I'm not sure if you recall, but all my kids love him. We all laugh together. I'm like when we're watching the Three Stooges. It just brings so many smiles. I was happy to see that Hasbro has a new retro figure done in that Kenner style, but of Jar Jar Binks. His legacy is, undeniable. But does it seem like it's been 25 years since you performed as Jar Jar Binks?
I mean, emotionally, no. Physically, like, I don't know if I can do half the things I did as Jar Jar anymore. It takes me a little bit longer to get out of bed these days, but time has definitely flown by. I mean, 25 years, it feels like it was, yesterday. And everyone who has been a part of the Phantom Menace, whether we talk regularly or not, we all have a special bond. It feels like family. It's funny. We were at the premiere of the last Star Wars feature, The Last Jedi, and at the after party, the thing that was so interesting was like every generation of Star Wars cast all squatted up. So I was just like walking to like, oh, let's talk to the original cast. Let me go to the sequel cast. And then there was the prequel cast. And Anthony Daniels was a part of all of them, He was just like bouncing around because of the ubiquity of C-3PO. But, we've all kind of created this very wide, this extremely diverse, wonderful family. And it's been fantastic to be a part of all of these years, Like I said, even if we're not talking Star Wars, just like, Mark Hamill calls me every year on my birthday, and every once in a while, like when I see him out, it's just like we're a part of this family, You know, it's just fantastic.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is... yes.
That's great. Well, I can't think of a better way to end it than that. Well, Rob, best of luck to you and your wife on the opening of Bricks and Minifigs. Again, openings on May the 4th, located on 350 South Lake Avenue, Suite 110 in Pasadena. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. And Ahmed, always a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you again so much for sharing your time and talents here on Coffee with Kenobi. And I always look forward to more from you in the future.
My pleasure, Dan. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much.
There you have it. A huge thank you to Ahmed and Rob for coming on and talking about the amazing new store, Bricks and Minifigs, as well as, of course, the legacy that is Ahmed Best. All the great things he has done for Star Wars. Is such an awesome guy. What a pleasure to speak with him. What a pleasure that you are sharing May the 4th with me. I want to thank you so much for joining me. If you want more Coffee with Kenobi, you can certainly go to coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. The official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi is MEI and Mousefan Travel. Go to coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel for a no-cost, no-obligation quote. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, if you want to join us on the Disney Wish Summer, June 16th to the 20th, 2025, or if you're curious about it, you can definitely get your no-cost, no-obligation quote specifically for the Disney Wish Coffee with Kenobi Mousefan Travel Cruise, easy for me to say, at coffeewithkenobi.com/DisneyWish. CWK Live will be this Monday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time at coffeewithkenobi.com/live, where you can share your top 5 moments from the finale of Star Wars The Bad Batch, The Cavalry Has Arrived. And if you want to comment on your reflections of the show or anything Star Wars, if you want to show off your May the 4th goodies that you found or your experiences at the theater seeing The Phantom Menace, go to our Facebook group at coffeewithkenobi.com/community. Coffee with Kenobi is possible because of the members of the CWK Alliance. Looking at all of you out there who are currently members of the Alliance, I want to thank you. Because of you, this podcast, CWK Live, event coverage, and so much more comes to life. Find out how you can help the show for as little as $1 a month by joining the CWK Alliance, and you will receive access to CWK Pour-Over, an exclusive weekly audio and video podcast not heard anywhere else. This week we talked about the finale of the Marvel Comics series from 1984, Secret Wars, and we're talking a lot about the X-Men 97 Disney Plus series as well. Find out more and join the CWK Alliance at coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance. And 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to St. Jude Children's Hospital. Got a question, have a suggestion for a future topic on the show, anything like that, certainly email me, danz at coffeewithkenobi.com. You can also find me on X, Instagram, and Threads, as well as LinkedIn. Coffee with Kenobi is on social media such as X, Instagram, Threads, Pinterest, TikTok. You can give the show a like at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi. Or subscribe to Coffee with Kenobi's YouTube channel where you can find over 700 videos. How did I have time to do that? I don't know, but I hope you watch them, and I hope you give them a like. Please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify. And if you like the logo, go to coffeewithkenobi.com/shop for your own t-shirt, hoodie, sticker, or more. Finally, if you need a speaker for an upcoming event, you can book me to come to your school, conference, business, or organization. I'm happy to talk with your group about how to tap into your strengths, bring out your very best, discuss mythology, or customize a presentation to fit your specific needs. Thank you so much for joining me for a virtual cup of coffee on this special holiday. And anytime you listen to Coffee with Kenobi, I appreciate your time and look forward to the next opportunity to talk Star Wars with you. I'm Dan Zehr, reminding you that this is the podcast you're looking for. Happy Star Wars Day, everyone. Hey, we've got a little bit of a bonus here just for May the 4th. Recently, I went to the theaters to watch Rogue One for a special presentation here in Central Illinois. I was joined by my son Mason, as well as his friends Nick and Tony Bakos, and our good friend Chris Bakos, as we talked about and reflected on Rogue One in the theaters. Mason had never seen Rogue One in the theaters, and Nick and Tony had never seen Rogue One at all. So here is our before and after reactions to Rogue One. Well, it's starting to seem like this is our annual tradition. This is Dan Zehr from Coffee with Kenobi, and we are here at yet another Star Wars big screen experience, this time in our area, the Peoria Riverfront Museum. We're going to see Rogue One, so I'm here with a couple of rogues of my own to chat with. First, of course, Mason Z. Mason, man, are you the regular co-host now or what?
I don't know. It feels like it, though.
Tell me what you're excited about for this movie tonight.
I'm really excited about it, mostly because I've only seen it once, and I'm glad to see a refresh of it.
And famously, this was the movie you wanted to see when you were a kid, when you were like 3.
Oh, yeah.
And we also have Nick, Tony, and Chris Bakos. They were here before when it was like May of last year when we talked about Return of the Jedi, which you all saw in the theater. This is exciting, especially because Nick and Tony have never seen Rogue One, and we're excited about that. So who wants to talk first?
Hi.
Nick, what are you looking forward to? What do you know about this movie?
I know that this movie is like set in the place of when they are finding the Death Star plans.
Mm-hmm. And did you know about the bunnies?
No.
That's because there aren't any. Okay. And what about you? What are you most excited about?
Hi, I'm Tony. Seeing Rogue One for the first time.
Okay. And Chris, I know you've seen this in the theater, I take it?
Not in the theater, but when it came out on DVD a long time ago, so it'll be interesting to actually see it on the big screen and get a refresh of it. So, especially this is like the U.S.'s largest movie screen, so it'll be kind of cool to see this on that.
Yeah, when so listeners may remember that when Rogue One came out in 2016, we did a live show of this, myself and Corey Club at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, and I actually worked with Nissan and the Nissan Rogue, the Star Wars edition. I worked with Nissan, and they brought the Nissan Rogue here to the theater, and we recorded in front of the vehicle and inside the vehicle afterwards, which was great acoustics for our immediate reactions. It's a great film. It's Tom Griffith's favorite Star Wars film. Many people might say the same thing. So we're looking forward to seeing it on the big screen and getting some reactions, so we will be back very soon. All right. It looks like the mission was a success. The Death Star plans have been transmitted, and it did look like it was a bit of a challenging experience. So let's see what our fellow rogues thought about the movie on the big screen. Mason, you've seen it once before. You were younger, and you've never seen it on the big screen. Tell me kind of your experiences and what you thought.
Yeah, the big screen just makes it a lot better, enhances your experience, and the movie, as always, is phenomenal.
I really liked the movie. It had like lots of suspense, and it was very action-packed.
Do you think it was a lot different than the other Star Wars movies you've seen?
Yeah, it was.
How come?
Because I feel like it had more fighting, and people were always like scared. It's like every single other movie, it's had the most action though that I've seen.
I agree. I think that's a good observation. What about you, Tony? What do you think of it, and how do you compare it to the others?
I liked it a lot on the big screen because you could feel like the noises in the ground, and it's different from the other ones because I think it has a lot more action than the other ones because of all the fighting and the Death Star, finding the Death Star plans and overcoming obstacles.
So what about you, Chris? You saw it before, you said, on Blu-ray, but of course seeing it here is a whole different experience, and seeing it with your kids, of course, adds to the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the one thing about this movie is that like all the heroes die, and when you're looking at the other movies, usually the heroes are alive, or maybe only one or two, perish. But it's kind of a sad movie, and you're like all excited into it, and then next thing you know, your hero's gone. So, but no, it was an awesome experience, and definitely think that this theater is something that I should come back and watch other Star Wars movies at. So, I
very much agree. So Nick, you had a reaction. I think maybe your dad kind of nailed it. Just the fact that the bad. I don't know. Do you think the bad guys win? I don't know if the bad guys win, But the good guys, well, they die. Tell me, were you surprised by that?
Well, not really, because have like lots of like troops and stuff. Like it could easily outnumber them, and the rebels they have like barely any. So.
Right. What about you? The fact that the bad guys or the good guys die. What did you think about that?
Yeah, and you can see how there would be a point of good guys winning. You can also see a point of bad guys winning. It's a little bit of equality, but I think the good guys win because in the end, as you see, Darth Vader looks as the ship with the plans goes to the rebellion.
Right, and it in the end of this transitions perfectly to the beginning of A New Hope when the ship is racing with Princess Leia with the plans. I think this movie, more than maybe any of them, puts the war in Star Wars because there's real cost, there's real death. You mentioned there's real fear, and there's a lot of danger. And Tony, you mentioned a lot of action, but this action feels like a little more grown up. Do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it seems a lot more grown up than the other ones because there's more people dying, like the heroes. Like my dad said, like there's only like 1 or 2 that perish in normal movies, but in this one, like every single one died.
Yep, it's absolutely true. So, Mason, you said right away, I know my top 3 favorite characters and I know my favorite scene. Mm-hmm. So let's all do our favorite 3 characters. So why don't you go first?
Okay, my 3 favorite characters is, I'll start at number 3. I would probably say Jyn Erso. I would say my 2 would be K2SO, and then my 1 would easily be Chirrut.
Chirrut Inway? How come?
I don't know, he just gives that kind of feeling. And when he says, I'm one with the Force and Force is with me, it kind of reminds you of faith.
Oh, yeah, he's very much the epitome of faith. And so people have asked me, is he a Jedi? No, he's Force sensitive, but he doesn't have the Force. So he can kind of sense it, but he can't control it or manipulate it. But he's able to be in tune with it. And I think that makes him really cool. Do you know what your 3 favorite characters are?
Yeah, my first one is Kay. My second one is Jen, and my third one is...
Cassian Andor?
Yeah.
I don't remember the characters' names, but
you can describe them, I'll help you.
The one guy that didn't actually have the Force, but was...
Oh, Chirrut?
Chirrut, yeah. And then I like his friend.
Baze Malthus.
More so that gun that he had. I thought that was a pretty awesome gun. And then I think Jen was a pretty rockin' character.
Yeah, she's terrific.
Yeah.
What about you?
Chirrut, Inway, Jen, K2SO.
What do you like about K2?
He's funny.
Yeah. He's really, really funny. I guess I should go. My favorites are, I love Galen Erso. I just think he's a fascinating character in his ultimate sacrifice to keep his daughter safe and to work with the enemy to try to make sure there's a flaw. Because the great thing about this is that there is no Luke Skywalker in New Hope without Jyn Erso and Galen Erso. My second one, I like the characters you mentioned. I like Cassian, but he's hard to kind of like because he's so gruff, but you understand why, especially if you've seen the Andor Disney Plus series, which is definitely not for kids. Have you seen it, by the way? It's very heavy. Okay. It takes place before this. Okay. And it shows how he gets to be how he is. But my other favorite character is Darth Vader. Darth Vader does not have a lot of scenes in this, but oh my goodness, is he frightening. Like, he is an absolute terror, which leads me to, you mentioned your favorite scene. What's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene easily is just Darth Vader chasing the rebels in their ship. And he's like, all the rebels are like, oh no, get us out of here. And he's just like calm and breathing and gets them. But I didn't think of him as a character because when I thought of that, I thought like good guys who helped the rebellion.
Absolutely. Well, did you see when he raises that guy in the air and he cuts him in half as he's walking past him? Yeah, it really shows that he is scary. Because it's hard to imagine for you guys because you see him at Walmart on cereal boxes. But Darth Vader, when he came out, scared people. He scared people. Do you have a favorite scene?
The one when they were raiding and bombing Scares.
Yeah. It's like 30, 40 minutes of complete action. What about you?
Mine's like the parts or like what you could say scenes where it's Jen she has like the database or whatever they call it, and like that one Imperial guy is trying to like get her or kill her, and then like it switches from that scene to like the other scenes where they're like fighting, and then it goes back and forth. Like I feel like that's the most part where it's action-packed.
I agree. Star Wars is really good about making a bunch of things happen. It happens at the end of Return of the Jedi. There's like 3 fight scenes going on at once. Do you have a favorite scene, Chris?
Yeah, I would agree with Mason. When all you hear is Darth Vader breathing and the lights are like off, and then his saber comes on, and then you actually see how frightening he really is. Because in the other movies, I mean, you know he's bad, but you don't really see how bad he really is. So that scene really kind of cements it. Like, he's an evil dude. So.
You want to hear something cool? When they were filming this, it wasn't originally planned to put that in there. But they thought it would be cool to have more Darth Vader. And then the guy who did Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, the story goes that he was on set that day, and he helped to kind of direct that sequence. And that is also my favorite scene, because I think it's the scene we've always dreamed about, seeing Darth Vader in live action, seeing why he is the most dangerous man in the galaxy, and using the Force. And now they have better special effects, so they could do that. But he was an absolute terror. And I don't know, like I said, we saw this for the first time here. We're sitting in this room. We had the massive Nissan Star Wars Rogue in here. We sat in the car. Uncle Bill was with us, actually. We talked about this movie, and it just blows me away because it's so heavy and so powerful and so different than the other movies, and in just a really unbelievable way. So any last-minute things you guys want to say about Rogue One and this entire experience before we sign off?
I have one thing. Yeah. I have another favorite character. It's Sharud, because like it's the fact that he's like blind and he's super like good at combat. It's amazing. Yeah.
Donnie Yen is the actor. He's a really famous martial artist, and you can tell he's great.
Also, Troop reminded me of, if you've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, Toph Beifong. So I'm not going to give any spoilers, but he did.
Good call. Anything else? All right, well, on behalf of Nick, Tony, Chris, Mason, and myself, thank you so much for joining us for this little special bonus episode where we got to enjoy Rogue One in a theater.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.